in drones, apparently.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen a lot of great studies. The studies I've seen are like pretty limited in what it can do, and then doesn't really account for cultural differences or neurodivergence, or
Yeah, definitely.
if you've just had Botox and you don't express any emotions at all.
I just had
'Cause
Botox.
I think I told her to start recording at 7:05, but I hope she's not
Okay, but
recording
we can
at
also,
7:02.
like, measure.
hopefully not. Where's
We
the
have to
camera?
start in 2 minutes.
Where is the camera, by the
Oh,
way?
yeah.
From above.
Well,
Is it
the
there?
way- Sorry, excuse me. The way it, from what I've seen, it comes down that way.
It's right there.
And
That one?
no, it's filming, like when you're on, it's,
Mhm.
I see you, like, on the screen.
Okay.
It's not face. Like, so you should try and stand
It stops the,
so people can see it.
Right here?
Yeah, yeah. Because then they can see you and they can see your.
I mean, I see this sort of like mic right here.
Where? Okay. But I don't know where the video.
Maybe right there?
Yes, that's it. That's
Okay.
why we look like we're sideways when you're doing
Got it.
it.
Yeah.
Because I've studied it and I thought, oh, I need to. So like if I was standing here, it was getting the side of me, like the opposite side. I felt
I wonder if
like.
it gets the whole.
It's still healing after the person.
oh, man.
So I just got it like 2 weeks ago.
So what I notice is when people are over here, this is what's good.
Yeah, I think that was what I do.
Yeah. So she's gonna turn it. I'm gonna read this here.
Okay.
It's just what you.
Yeah, what I edited earlier.
Where she was also in the swim team, and then he talks about.
Oh, yeah.
And then if you.
The pacemaker, it keeps me on my go.
Oh, I forgot to write this.
I go and I go.
So you get your parking validated by.
Keeps me alive.
Did you park on the street?
This is part of the city.
Excuse me, did anybody park in the underground, in the building? No one? We were street parking, we all did street?
Yeah.
Oh, so.
There was plenty of street parking.
Yeah, I know, I parked right in front.
Yeah, I did too.
So so then it's, she would validate the parking and you'd only have to pay $8. So,
Nice.
I hope this isn't live streaming right now.
Hello, if you're live streaming, we're talking about parking.
Yes, and I hope I'm looking into the camera as opposed to it not being sideways. I'd give it another minute. I wish, see, there's another big meetup going on.
Yeah.
She had a rush over there,
Mm-hmm.
and we're the little guy.
So we're not really sure when she's kicking off the
Well, I told her 7:05.
7:05 it is.
All right, let's start. Here we go. We're all going to start. Yep. So here we go. Hello, everyone. What a crowd. Welcome to the Marketing, Automation, and AI Meetup. We're so glad you could make it today. I'm just reading. Okay, some housekeeping, and I'll introduce our featured speaker. The meetup is from 6:30 to 8:30. Our featured speaker is Tina Schweiger, which she'll speak from 7 to 7:45, and then we'll have 15 minutes for Q&A. We have a hard stop at 8:30 p.m., and then the Capital Factory closes the doors. So we want to say a thank you to Capital Factory. Thank you, Capital Factory, for hosting us and for providing us with this wonderful space. And Emily Hyatt, our Capital Factory liaison, yay. And she's here to answer any questions about membership or holding a meeting here. She's out there. Now let's get to our speaker. Tina Schweiger is a published scientist with a master's degree in industrial organizational psychology from Harvard. Her undergrad degree is in design from our own University of Texas at Austin, where she was also on the swim team. She has also received advanced training and certification from the Luma Institute for Human-Centered Design. Tina is a co-founder of Feelalytics, a revolutionary platform and software that measures emotions and creates actionable data for marketers and employers. Feelalytics has invented the Net Emotion Score, which measures consumer emotions on the Net Emotion Index. a much more accurate way to assess customer satisfaction than the Net Promoter Score. Without further ado, let's welcome Tina Schweiger.
Thank you, Sharon. I'm so excited to be here with you tonight. This is the first time that I've given this talk about this topic, and it's about a lot of things that I have had in development for many years, so I'm very excited tonight to bring this to you. But again, it's my first time. So as she said, I have some credentials. I did do the Harvard and I have recently published a study in a science journal that was peer-reviewed, so I'm pretty excited about that in collaboration with the university. I'll tell you more about that as we go. And yes, I am co-founder and CEO of Feelalytics, and we are currently 3 years old, in early revenue stage, still not funded, but you know, we'll maybe get funded someday or not. Either way, it's good. We're going to keep going. So what we're going to talk about today is a lot to do with how we make decisions. When you're talking about marketing, you're talking about marketing automation and AI, everything that this meetup centers on. Ultimately, it centers on a choice, and the choices that we make as consumers to make purchases, and we think we make choices. How do we think we make choices? You kind of go through the options that you have, maybe look at if you do some research, you put some reason to it, you have some logic, and then you make an informed decision. But I have some news for you, which you might already know. This is how we really make decisions. It's a little bit more messy than that. We have all these emotions that are conflicting. We have, some of them are under the surface, we're not quite aware of them, but fear, desire, being intrigued, charming, all of these emotions come into play. And then we use the logic and the reason to justify our feelings. That's kind of how it works. So the science behind that is there's a scientist that's a Portuguese-American neuroscientist and professor of psychology, studies how decisions are made. And he can point to different parts of the brain, this cortical and subcortical components, amygdala, the sensory motor cortex, insular peripheral, lots of big brain words. But what that really means is that there's a lot going on in your mind that are checking in memories, and all of these things are happening, but really it's just that shopping is cheaper than therapy. That's kind of what's going on. Even Dave Ramsey, who has a radio show and a talk show on finances, who's a well-known financier, a financial expert, says that we buy things that we don't need with money we don't have to impress people that we don't like. So our choices are not always rational, even though we kind of think that they're rational. So as marketers and as people who are interested in AI and in kind of controlling things or making these things work, we have a bit of an uphill battle when we think about how consumers make choices. And you can stop me at any time if you have any questions. So as a 20-year, 25-year veteran in marketing, design, all of those things, this is an area of interest for me, and I believe that we really need to have a good understanding of how our prospects and how the people that we want to become our customers and we want to get interested in our products, we really do need to know how those decisions are made. And it isn't as rational and logical as we would hope that it would be. So that's what I've been studying for quite a while now, and I'm here to share some exciting discoveries. You got to think, maybe we already do this, right? We already do this. We take sentiment into account, we take feelings into account, right? This already is a thing, correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of a thing. Yes. I'll go through some of the ways that it happens right now. There's Freshdesk, Google, that measures, takes transcripts, and it takes all the transcripts from call centers and from emails, and it overlays some algorithms, and it pulls sentiment from that. You have a net-based QUID, which is more of a neural language processing overlay onto text analysis. Google Analytics, that we are very familiar with in this room, is tracking your behaviors and really looking at behaviors and time spent on page and where you're going after you start here and go there. So it's really looking at behaviors. Sprout Social is scraping and snooping on all of our social posts, especially when we're talking about products, and they're gathering insights and sentiment from our social posts. There's also some snooping on your face that's happening. It's starting to happen a little bit more. Eye gaze, looking at sentiment as it shows up in the face. Surprise or happiness or sadness, things like that. There are companies out there that's in a more of an emerging space in technology, is to put geometry over the face and map emotions to it. So that's a thing. Another way is the old way, pre-testing your content, market research. So the Nielsen reports, that's kind of the old school dial where you have a market research group and they're saying, hey, I like this one, I don't like that one. They're doing qualitative research and quantitative research, and they're asking consumers before a product goes to market or before a campaign goes to market to see how people feel and how people react to it and the sentiment beforehand. We also have asking the terrible question and getting a dubious metric, which is the Net Promoter Score, which is interesting because if you think about the Net Promoter Score, familiar with that at all? So it's from about 20 years ago, and marketers can be, especially at the corporate level, fairly obsessed with it. And it's a score between 1 and 100 that's calculated. And it's that question you get on surveys after you've purchased something or after you've had an engagement with a company that says, how likely are you to recommend this to someone else? It's that one question. And how you answer that one question is all aggregated, and the company gets a score out of that. The problem with this metric is that, I don't know, first of all, it's not asking me who I would recommend it to. So if I would recommend it to my kid or to my mom would probably be really two different things, or my friend. And then I also would say, so that might make me a little bit nervous, and maybe I'll give them like a 7. Like, I think it's pretty good. That actually kind of puts me into a passive and almost a detractor. So unless somebody is like a 9 or a 10, you're not really getting like that. So it's just it's a metric that's easily, it's prone to hacking, and I don't think it's a really great metric. But I think that's one of the things that we can replace. So there are some problems with these existing platforms. One of the problems is context loss. So if you're, for example, on a call center and you're calling about a service and you're like, man, my new iPhone is sick, man, it's really good. Well, the transcript might say sick, and then the AI might think that you're saying like, oh, sick. But what's really happening is like it's sick good. So you're not always getting the context when you're just reading the text. Can be interpreted incorrectly many times. And then in fact you can make wrong decisions, and then you can make wrong future plans based on incorrect context. It's going to be complicated. Cultural variance, sentiment and behavior is very different in different cultures. So one way that we express happiness or glee or pleased with a product may be completely different in another culture. And that the technology that we have is not, especially there's a lot of bias in the technology, as we know in AI, it's difficult. Data privacy. If somebody is snooping on your face and tracking your emotions, have you consented to that? We're pretty much consenting to that right now, like all the time. You walk into a public place, you're almost consenting just by being there. But you have situations that happened in about 2012 when Facebook, tried to manipulate people's emotions and moods with their news feed, and see if we put, posts up that they're responding angry to, can we continue to get them to be more angry? And they showed that its emotions are contagious, and they can really manipulate the feed, and they can, make you feel things that you may not want to feel, and we kind of all know how that has panned out. Not so great. Over-reliance on automation, so not actually double-checking and making sure that the automation and the context and all of these softwares that you have, really looking at that number or looking at those results, but not verifying them and not really like diving in and understanding what the experience really is, but just relying on our listening sources instead. It's kind of a problem. Algorithmic bias is a real thing. So if you, as we've seen, go to the chat or to Midjourney bot and ask for what's a good example that you've seen?
I'm thinking of Netflix right now.
Yeah.
And the algorithm I'll go check my friend, the mail, and see what he's watching and see how they give me different things.
Yes.
You know, so it's, why am I not getting what he's getting?
I know. Sometimes I log in as my husband just to get the action movies that I really want to see.
Yeah.
That Netflix doesn't give me.
The algorithm, it's the algorithmic bias.
Yeah, it gives me the, romantic comedies or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't always want to see that. I don't,
Talk about racial stuff like where you type in businessman and it's a white guy.
Yeah, a businessman, yeah, it's a white guy in a suit.
4 white guys.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like a Mid-Journey. Oh, and what Mid-Journey will do, I'll say I want a woman a certain way.
Yeah.
They all show giant breasts and it's sexual.
Yeah.
On my Mid-Journey, I don't know why. And
Yeah. Because the programmers who were creating it were all men.
Yeah.
And then that's a lot of what the media is out there, and it's scraping all that media. So there's a lot of bias out there that, if we just rely
You
on...
can see it right in the AI.
I do say that all of the images you're seeing in this presentation were generated by Midjourney. I really have gotten obsessed with the prompts and how to do them and how to get them to create images the way that I want them. And it is like being an all-omniscient, all-powerful creative director and just having that illustrator that's like, yes, I'd be more than happy. Yes, I'd be more than happy to forever and ever change this, change that. It's really fun. But you do get a little bit of noise also, and even in the social media like Sprout Social and everything, there's a lot, they have to listen to a lot of noise to get to the meat of what's really there, so you may end up with data bloat. So there's a lot of problems with the things that we have that are technologies out there to gather sentiment. So you gotta ask though, I just have to take a step back from marketing and from automation and just get real for a minute and be like, why does this really matter? Because we are all people. We all are consumers, even those of us who are in marketing and on AI and doing automation and doing all these amazing things. We are consumers as well. So we got to step back and think about that a little bit. World Psychiatry Journal has, there's a lot of studies about compulsive shopping, shopping addiction, buying addiction. 5 to 8% of the population having a shopping addiction. Is there anyone in the room who might have a shopping addiction? Allison?
Yeah.
Yes.
The phone and the store.
Yes.
Yeah.
80% of people who suffer from shopping addiction are women. So you have to be a little bit like, where's the responsibility here? It's more common in people under 30 who have less financial means, who are really trying to make it. You have shopping addiction as something that can be more common.
My own shopping addiction.
People that have compulsive shopping addictions, half of them have maxed out their credit cards. You max out your credit cards, you could go to bankruptcy, you could end up homeless. I mean, this could be a burden on our society. In studies that ask about the shopping addiction, most people are saying it's emotional triggers. Allison has told me when she feels sad, that's when she shops. Or lonely.
Yeah, that's when I shop.
That's
and
when
then
you
I have
shop.
to deal with the credit card bill later.
Yeah. So it's important because only 13% of people with a shopping addiction will actually seek help for it. So it's not something that, do we even think about it, right? Not so much. But I think we could be better. If we are in the industry of creating automations, doing AI, helping consumers make informed choices and good choices and have a pleasant and amazing experience when they're shopping, let's actually do it with ethics and make sure that we're doing it in a good way. And that's really, speaks a lot to the root of who I am as a person, and having a strong core value to just being ethical and doing integrity and doing the right thing and not taking advantage of people in their times of need when they are, feeling down. If I'm creating software that can tell if Allison is feeling bad, and I know that she might have a shopping addiction, should I push that? Really. So nobody's really talking about that or thinking about that. So if you're watching this, please think about it.
Let's be real. They don't have ethics. Most companies don't have ethics. It's all about the bottom line.
It is true. It's probably why I'm an outsider, kind of always will
I
be probably.
mean, they know she's got a shopping addiction, so they're gonna.
They do, they hit my email, they hit everything,
Yes,
and
yeah.
I have to delete the apps when it's a controlled addiction, because I prefer to have a high credit score and money, but when I get sad, Tina's right, I'll download Temu and I'll be like, all right, what am I gonna buy, and then I get it all, and it's crap,
And then you don't feel as good.
Yeah.
And it was just in the moment.
and then I gotta return all of it.
The upside, aside from the dark side of shopping addiction, the upside is that if we do it right, we can create more joy in our customer interactions. We can create more brand affinity, which is a more long-term customer value number. Your customer value goes up. You can support better mental health for all, and because profits, like all of these things do lead to better profits. It isn't as transactional in nature, it isn't as manipulative in nature, but it is something that over the long-term health of your company, your products, your marketing, it's better to actually go for joy and positive emotions. I feel very strongly about that. So what my research has been in the past few years is looking at how we gather sentiment a little bit differently, and looking at how can we gather emotion, but can we also gather the context? And when we put those things together and we make a metric out of it, that's a game changer. I've spent 4 years studying this. I've cataloged 144 emotions. I've been through probably 50 or more self-help books, 3 versions of software I've created and deployed, created a psychometric assessment on how emotionally aware people are. I've conducted 3 studies and have recently had 1 published, peer-reviewed. And I've also done several pilots with customers in real-world applications. And I have learned some really interesting things. I can't wait to share them with you. Realization number 1 of 4 for you is that there are very few, if any, standards by which to organize, judge, interpret, or understand human emotion. You think about, I don't know, colors. You're a designer. You know there's a color wheel. You know, we have primary colors and we have secondary colors and tertiary colors, and we can create analogous palettes and complementary palettes. There's a agreed upon standard. Color is pretty, hard to pin down, but somebody did it. Nobody's done it with emotions. I was like, wow, there's a couple wheels out there. There's Pluchak's wheel. There's a couple of other psychology ones that are really based in psychopathology and mental illness, so they're all skewed towards negative emotions, which for me, customer experience and shopping, all of that should be skewed towards positive emotions, because it's actually, I love shopping. It's a joy. It is fun. Retail is therapy for me too. So I thought, well, I'm gonna have to figure this out first if I wanna tackle this bigger problem. I got inspired when I was in school by 10 points if you can pronounce his name.
I know the
Mihai
book.
Csikszentmihalyi.
I can't know the book.
Yes,
I can't
it's
pronounce
like
his name.
this really long. He just passed away, I think, in 2020. But a Hungarian American psychologist, the author and creator of the concept of flow. The state of flow is a state where you're maybe in athletics or you're doing music or art and you lose track of time. You're all of a sudden more happy. You get a lot of stress relief from being in a state of flow. So he did that. He was inspired by a technology in the 1970s, the pager. And he was like, wow, I can get a whole bunch of data if I interrupt somebody when they're doing something and I say, here's the beeper, it went off. Now you get your little clipboard out and you tell me how you feel right now. And then you tell me what you're doing right now. And then what your mindset is right now. You gather mountains of data and created entirely new theories and entirely new concepts and books about it. It's called experience sampling method. And I thought, wow, why are we not doing experience sampling method? I mean, we're looking at customer experience. Shouldn't we be sampling their experience in the moment and using that as data? So at the foundation of what I've created is based on experience sampling. It samples in the moment experiences, not asking somebody about something that happened in the past. It's asking somebody about something that they're experiencing right now. This image right here is there's a lot behind this, but I organized all the emotions. So this column right here, we have negative attitudes that might lead to these negative emotions. We have these yellow ones that I'm calling resilience attitudes and mindsets, positive emotions and positive attitudes. And then over here I have progressions that go from negative to positive and from positive to thriving. And that's pretty cool. I've been testing that and working on it for a while. To zoom in a little bit to just see what that looks like. For example, if you had an attitude of self-focus or you're just kind of caught up in your own head, maybe you're feeling apathy, which is sort of nothing at all. So how do you kind of get out of that? Like, how do you break out of this state of apathy? Hope is a mindset that you can cultivate that will help you kind of break out of that apathetic mindset and get into positive interest. You know, positive interest moves a little bit farther out, zoom out a little bit farther into other people, you get to empathy. So what I've been looking at is in the polarities and like how emotions really play off each other in the experience of emotions and how it plays with sadness and humor, for example. But trying to break yourself out of sadness starts with a little bit of self-compassion. So like what is it, what are these attitudes that you can cultivate based on the research that I've been doing? I've just really organized all this stuff. So it's pretty cool.
It is cool.
But wait, there's more. I have another realization. The other realization is that we gotta have a new metric to follow the changing emotional states. Because I don't know about you, but today I've had many emotions already. You know, on the way to get my kid to diving practice before I came here, I experienced gridlock and I was gonna be late to the diving practice. So I was really stressed out. But when I got here, I was pretty excited because I'm doing this talk and it was pretty fun. So you have to realize that when we're in this emotional state right now, you know, 10 minutes from now, it might be a different one. So that's something you have to kind of care for when you're looking at measuring emotions and turning emotions into data and doing it at scale. So I reached out to this scientist in England. Her name is Dr. Linda Kay. As I was studying emotions and how to capture customer sentiment, I was reading her papers and going through some of the research that she's been conducting in cyber psychology and how people interact with computers and games and just how that impacts their psychology. And I said, hey, I have this, thing I'm trying to do. I'm not a PhD, I'm just like a lowly master's person, and I need like a PhD person like you. Do you want to do a study with me? And she said, yeah. And that was like a couple years ago. So I licensed from the positive and negative affect scale, from the authors of the scale, and from the copyright holder, which is the American Psychological Association, and I purchased, 500 or 1,000 times that I could administer this scale. I did that because I wanted to create a new scale. And I researched, I thought at this moment I could probably use emoji because we have this keyboard on our phones. And we use these all the time, I do, to express my emotions, to kind of react to things quickly, a quick thumbs up. It was just this hunch, kind of inspired by technology, that this is something we could do a bit more with than we really do. And I wanted to validate, can we use emoji to gather emotional sentiment? Yeah, that was the hunch I had. So we did a study on that. And I'll see if I can get to the study. Okay, so what I resulted in was a new scale, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how I got there, because it's really hard to wrap your head around at first. Like, how do you go from like science about emotion to emoji to like putting numbers to that? Isn't that kind of like, is it arbitrary? Like, how are you coming up with that? Like, I get that question a lot, so I'm going to tell you a little bit more. But the outcome I got is the net emotion index. So what I hope to do is replace the net promoter score or be adjunctive to the net promoter score to get more context around it. But the net emotion index takes a piece of context, it takes an emotional reaction, and then it puts it through an algorithm that cares for how the reaction, how intense it is, which mood it is, and if it's positive or negative, in which direction. So I created an algorithm that creates a single score that's -100 to +100. And then over here, this is where I think we need to be in terms of marketers and creating a positive brand affinity. We need to be make people feel good. And the more you can make people feel good, the more they're gonna return to you, the more they're gonna come back, and the more they're gonna share it with others because it makes them feel good. So, net emotion index. Oh, I have a patent pending on that. That's the other thing I've been working on. Okay, so how did I do this? So overall, it's not arbitrary. It's not something that I just sort of like randomly assigned, numbers to emoji. I actually looked at fMRI studies, scans of the brain, looking at how those emotions are organized from a neuroscience perspective, and what parts of the brain are being stimulated with different emotions. And then looking at how those emotions are measured in different studies. There's studies where they'll put up videos or different emotional stimulants and then scan the brain and see what's happening in there. So I looked at a lot of those studies. Then you kind of look at how it's measured in terms of affect, which is which emotion it is, valence, which is whether it's positive or negative, and intensity, which is how much you're feeling. I overlaid that with, there's mountains of studies that scrape all the social media data that look at emoji usage paired with context to see how people are generally using these to express themselves, and there are quite consistent trends. The trends, interestingly enough, they cross culture, they cross gender, they cross age, and they cross language. So I thought, this might be kind of a nice measure because this measure isn't language dependent. It's actually language independent. Bypasses the thinking brain and goes to the limbic brain, which is where you're processing your emotional reactions, and that's what I'm measuring. So I also relied a lot on Emojipedia, which is an online wiki. I've been communicating a bit with the founders of that. They have an ongoing scraping where they're following the changing trends in emoji usage. When a certain emoji becomes uncool, when one becomes trendy, it'll track all of that, and it'll show you a breakdown of the positive and negative sentiment context as it's related to that emoji. This has resulted in an algorithm that calculates emotion reactions in emoji. It's like our Coke recipe. We don't share it, but we're always making it better. It's a proprietary thing. What can you do with that? So you're probably familiar with a customer journey and designing customer journeys. If you're in automation, a huge part, you have to know the journey. Like, where are they going to? What are the touch points? And maybe measure sentiment at different touch points. You could actually aggregate that by asking people in the moment, while they're in that part of the journey, how they feel, and in the context of that part of the journey. Then you can look at that as it and see how it trends over time and figure out where to improve your customer journey. Where are people falling off? More importantly, why are they falling off? Maybe they're not falling off because you just don't know. Maybe it's too long or too short. There's maybe a call to action that's missing. Maybe they're just angry about something that you said that doesn't align with their values, or maybe they don't like the talent that you chose, to represent the products. There's a lot of different reasons, and when you start putting context and emotion together, you can actually start to understand based on the moods and the trends and the moods that are coming on. Sometimes we just find things can be polarizing, and sometimes we find that things just are of interest to different target audiences than you otherwise thought. But the good news is that the data that we gather is first-party customer data. It's given willingly. It's given in a gamified way. When we ask for the feedback, we usually get 50 to 70% response rates because it's fun. And we then take all of that, and you can give a little bit more, because you're following, you have points to compare. You're following something as it changes, so you can compare how things change over time rather than looking at one particular metric with maybe context that's missing. It's all context dependent. Question, Roland?
No, I'm The wheels are turning.
Oh, yeah, trust me, my wheels have been turning a long time. So context plus question equals reaction. Most everything, Mindful Appy was what we were called, now we're called Feelalytics. But most everything relies on the keyboard Unicode. It's already built into all the phones, so there's no software to install. There's no apps to install. There's no logins to create. There's no signups. All it is if you have a phone number, you have a metric. You have access to a metric. Send a text message. How do you feel about this? How do you feel about your service at CompUSA or whatever stores are now closed? You know, how do you feel about when your return on Amazon? How do you feel about this purchase? Are you still as happy when you made the purchase, when you received that product? Are you as happy with it as you were when you made the purchase?
Yeah, I do have a question.
Yeah.
Are you saying that you would rely solely on emoji as a response from the customer?
So no. Yes and no. Emoji gives you the number, and it gives you a mood, and then you can cross-reference with the context of the moment. So it gives you a lot of insights. The software does also gather free-form text response that can be analyzed as well.
Yeah, so that people can elaborate.
Exactly. Yeah, you can. It's basically, if you can imagine having qualitative insights, but at a quantitative scale.
There are tons of emojis. I don't even know which emoji is meant for which specific emotion, then flow of them.
So that's a good point, and that's what I studied. And what I found out in my study, because there is an established, valid existing scale to measure emotion, and it's called the positive and negative affect scale. It's a list of emotions, and at the moment it says, how happy are you right now on a scale from 1 to 10? How sad are you? How stressed are you? And you kind of go through. That scale has been tested and proven over and over again. So I administered the positive and negative affect scale along with the emoji scale, and I correlated the results to see how correlated they were. What I found was that there's not a very high correlation when you ask somebody to cognitively define what an emoji means. What does this emoji mean? How do you define it? You're going to get 500 different answers. But if you ask somebody, how happy are you right now? And then you give them the smiley face emoji, it's got a very high correlation. So when it comes to an emotional reaction, based on all of the data that I've pulled about how people use emoji on the day-to-day, there's a limiting set that people use constantly. Probably 10 to 20 emoji that we really use constantly to express a basic amount of emotions. There's 1,800 other emoji that don't have a lot of emotion tied with them, or if they do, they're tied to a niche group. Say TikTok users who are confused may use the chair. Okay, I don't look at a chair and think confused, but if I was a TikTok user, I would look at an empty chair, and that indicates confused. The general user, especially if they're not in a niche place, so we care for that in the algorithm. But the majority, the 80-20 rule, the majority of people stick with the heart emoji, the praying hands emoji, the strong emoji, you know, the angry emoji. There's basic expressions that are pretty universal. So, yeah.
So since I live in Texas, I use the cowboy emoji all the time.
For sure, I do too.
Like, so does that mean that it's a regional thing, or do people use that who are outside of Texas?
It's a happy emoji, right?
Yeah, I know it's
Yeah.
a happy one, but instead
happy.
of using the happy ones, I use that one. Or the
Yeah.
one with the sunglasses.
Still get y'all, that'll get you happy in my book.
Oh, it does, okay.
Yeah. So design, human-centered design. There's a lot of techniques for sorting and making sense of data, and one of them is called affinity clustering. And affinity clustering is one of the main tools that I use to organize this kind of data that doesn't have organization already with it.
So when you look for emojis, the way I do it usually is I type a word
Mm-hmm.
to look for my emoji.
Yeah,
And I see
I do it all the time.
the selection and
Yeah.
what that can
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times they don't have it. They don't have the exact emoji that needs to represent what I'm feeling.
Yeah, they do new releases of the Unicode keyboard regularly, and then I go update my algorithm
I should do that.
regularly. But first I look at it and see how people are using those. And there's nothing, I wouldn't call this a Food and Drug Administration rigorous, no confounding variables measure, but it's some damn good information that we don't have already.
Interesting.
I want to talk a little bit about belonging. This is not about marketing so much. A lot of my passion is in how employees experience things too. Turns out that we can measure belonging in an interesting way. This is a description of a pilot. Where is it? Did I put this pilot in here? Looks like I missed it. Okay. Pilot with a nonprofit organization in New York called Perscalis. And Perscalis is a national nonprofit. It's about 30 years old. They work in urban areas and they work with underserved communities. They believe that talent is ubiquitous, but opportunity is not. So they educate those who are in underserved communities. There's a lot of people of color, and then they place them in tech roles. So this is kind of near and dear to my heart. I wanted to really do a pilot with them. They're in the process of wondering how they might measure belonging. They had done a culture amp survey. It showed that they had a 60% favorability rating in the topic of belonging and how people feel like they belong at the organization. But they didn't really know what that meant or how they got that score or how to make it actionable. So we came in here and thought, all right, well, let's do a study with you guys. Let's do a pilot and see what we can learn with this. This is really road testing this new measure. We had 25 Perscalians who were their leadership team. We went and helped them define what belonging meant to them, to their organization, how it was unique to their organization, and really got our arms around that. We did 6 weeks of this experience sampling. So not, a big survey at the end or anything huge to deploy. We just would ping people multiple times a week about different topics as it relates to belonging. We had 75 participants. We asked questions about respect, questions about leadership, questions about connection, questions about mattering, questions about belonging. With each question, we got 50 to 75% response rates. We're asking questions that people really don't feel comfortable answering. And the reason is because of retribution. If you're really not happy with something and you give it the middle finger, well, you don't want to get fired over that. So you generally hold back. One thing that we found with this measure is people are more willing to share the negative. You always get a positive spin. You always get this pleasing bias when you're doing market research and you're asking people about their experience. They don't want to give you the bad news. They've been trained not to give you the bad news. But when we ask them and say, just give us an emoji that represents how you feel about this, we get the bad news. It's kind of cool.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
It is.
So at the end of this, we could break belonging down into 8 aspects. Respect, understanding, connectedness, pride, a future here, a voice, a little glitch there, mattering and belonging. And then we could look at, as a comparative, and in comparative aspects, we found, you know what, Perscalis, you guys are doing great in the area of pride. Everyone here is proud about the mission. They feel like they're making a difference in the world. They love what they're doing. No problems there. But in your overall level of belonging, what's missing is understanding. And what we found out by doing this study was that they were kind of coming to work. They were going to events, but never bringing extended family, never bringing their personal life to work. It was very, very, the culture there, very tidy professional, very neat professional. And nobody felt really comfortable sharing more personal things at work. So what that ended up happening is that while they felt a lot of pride at working at the organization, they didn't necessarily feel like other people understood them, especially leadership. So that gave the team at Perscalis actionable things to work on. They themselves, through our facilitation, designed different ways to improve their level of understanding between each other and then implemented them. In January, we will be running another study with them to see how they're doing on belonging and see how these experiments that they've been doing to improve their belonging along these lines of different aspects has been working. In market research, this is another area that we're looking at. You can tell we're in product market fit phase. I have these videos masked because this is an actual real client that we're under a non-disclosure with, so I have to hide them. But we tested 3 30-second national television spots, and we pre-tested them with segmented focus groups. And we had them watch a video. As they were watching the video, we have a curated, smaller emoji keyboard that represents the 24 different emotions that we get out of the emoji. We say, hey, when you're watching this video, if you feel something, click the emoji at that right time. Click the emoji at that right time. And then we will look at the data and analyze it and give it an ultimate score. So we can see video number 1 down here around 24. I call this area transactional. If you're in negatives, man, you're making people feel bad. And you might get a sale right away, but you're not really going to get that LTV up at all. 24 on this video, 44 on this video, and we had one that was really a winner at 59 in that really high positive brand affinity. So if you're going to spend millions of dollars on media, which these companies spend millions on media, you probably want to know if you're going to get backlash, if it's going to land the way you want, really be able to test this creative before you put it out there, rather than just going on hunches or going on, I'm sorry, but sometimes it's just what the boss thinks that he definitely knows about the target audience, but he's always wrong, or she. I just kind of find that to be the case when I've worked in creative. What we can do with this when we look at the play-by-play of the video is we can see which were the favorite parts of the content, which were the least favorite parts of the content. And we can give each different segment its own individual net emotion score. So some of these up here is a really good area, and some of these down here is really good bad area, and we also can tell you which group felt certain ways.
Are you allowed to know which, what was the topic of the video?
I would call it the sporting industry.
Okay. So was the objective to sell something? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
This is a TV commercial,
And you said
30-second spot.
that the conversion was the highest at positive emotion, right?
This is measuring like how people are reacting to that content.
So at first, was it going over the pain points and kind of rubbing in the pain points?
There were 3 different creatives, and they were market testing different talent than the creatives and different themes in an attempt at humor, which did not succeed.
Because the reason I'm asking that is because when you look at the way copywriters set up their content, a lot of times they present the pain points and then they agitate that and then they present the solution.
Yeah.
That's one of the formats, but
Turns out that format is the best one. It's tried and true, and there's a reason copywriters do that, because it works. The ultimate outcome of this test showed that the more traditionally written and traditionally scripted and traditionally cast TV commercial scored much higher than the ones that were a little more edgy and a little bit more attempting at humor. Yeah. This is the kind of data that you get, though. We can aggregate the scores during the videos, but then we can compare it to an overall feeling. How did you feel about this? And we get that score from after the video. So you can kind of see, you can pressure test to see if people are giving you good, honest reactions, or if it's really, really different after the video than during the video, then there's something that they don't want to tell you, especially if it's higher. But then we get emotion blocks, so you can see, which emotions are the primary emotions that people are feeling, the sentiment balance, percentage positive versus percentage negative versus percentage neutral, etc. Pretty cool. The other thing you can see is per target audience, the score. So video 2, you can see right here, group 7, they were the low to medium spender, age 45 to 64. They did not like that video. Whereas over here we have group 1, which were medium spenders, only age 25 to 44 on this video right here. So we call this like a targeting matrix. So this doesn't necessarily mean that if you have some media or content that you want to invest in, you've already invested in, you want to put it in the marketplace, just know who to target it to, when you're putting it out there, so that you're getting it in front of the right audience. So it's a better way to get that content into that sweet spot of audience. Moment by moment, you can see, this is a little snippet. These are the emotions that we gather in the videos, and then the key shows you at each second of the video, like what's happening. We have a lot of really good stuff happening here. People are liking what's happening here in the videos. That's how we get those moments of the video to show like which moments are doing better and which moments aren't doing as well. Oh, okay, so realization number 4 was a little bit more personal, and that is, all of this is really great, but now I have a really awesome way to train yourself to identify your own emotions and choose a new emotional state and then get there. So I have figured out a way to expand joy into the world, and it's called FeelWise. So in addition to this, I have a tool that's coming, I'm getting ready to have printed in the next couple weeks. And it's 200 cards, all 144 emotions, and about 50 micro-mindfulness techniques that teach you how to identify what you're feeling in the moment, and then what to do after you've identified how you feel. So feel-wise.com.
Cool.
And that concludes my talk. I'll open up the floor for any Q&A that we might have.
Thank you.
Yeah. A lot of work. It's inside my head.
I like the bird, the owl.
The owl? Oh, thank you, Midjourney bot.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's beautiful.
I found it so fascinating, all the data.
Yeah.
I love data, and I mean, everything is scientific, everything we do, our expressions. One of the things I was thinking though, I can't always measure my expression because I was born with a natural down, the
Resting bitch face?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so I'm not upset about anything, I'm
Yeah.
just focused on it.
That's the problem with the facial recognition that, for example, our CMO, Michelle Stinson-Ross, works with me at Feelalytics.
Yeah.
She also has resting bitch face.
And we shouldn't call it that.
We shouldn't, but it's kind of
not-
funny.
Well, it is,
Yeah.
it's kind of politically incorrect.
It is,
okay?
but what it is that she says when she feels depressed, that she loses the ability to make expressions on her face.
Wow.
So while she's kind of processing things, she really has this sort of stone face with that isn't making expressions so much at all.
Wow.
Then you have autism spectrum. Allison is the executive director of a nonprofit that helps adults on the autism spectrum. Autism spectrum people emote very differently. You have different cultures and different skin tones and colors. So there's, I really believe that there's a really important place for first-party data asking people. Ask them how they feel. Ask them how they feel. Ask them how they feel. Don't think that you can just snoop and pull this information, because you might be getting somebody who just had a fight with their spouse and they're at the store and they are in the middle of that retail therapy, but their expression doesn't look so good, but they're actually feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
So you just never know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to ask. So this is my goal, is to help advocate for responsible use of emotions in marketing, and to advocate for asking the consumers what they feel and actually listening to that information and making decisions on it. So I feel strongly about it.
Well, thank
Thank
you for everything. We're 3 minutes short of 8.
Oh, wow. That's
Yes.
Yeah, we
I
did.
did
Yeah,
a
so
little
perfect.
longer than I thought,
We're
yeah.
Perfect.
Good,
This
thank
was a
you.
really great talk, and I want to thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I was on the edge of my seat the whole time, mesmerized by the data and the visuals. So, and
Good.
I'm a big note taker.
Good.
Too, so.
If you have any feedback, I'd love to hear it. This is literally the first time that I've put these slides together and talked, so y'all are my very friendly guinea pig audience. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know where this will go,
Well, I
but
think the slides because you're a visual designer, some very like dense data that you would see on a keynote or something, you made it colorful and digestible.
I hope to.
Engaging.
That's
No,
the goal.
because I think you combined your design
Yeah.
skills, which most people don't have, which is, it's deep material. I mean,
Yeah.
even though you had graphs and it was interesting because it was pretty, it wasn't boring.
You're
or
really
hard to
looking at
look
a, I'm
That's
a
my
UX
that's my
designer,
perception.
UX UI designer at heart.
Yes,
That's where I love
that's
it. Data,
my
design. Good.
reaction to
Yeah,
it.
good.
And I'm hoping he loved the owl, I mean, it feels, how did you all feel about the data being presented? Did it have a better, like the visuals were good?
Yeah, definitely pleasing to look at,
Yeah.
easy to understand.
Yes, easy to understand and pleasing to look at, and that's what you want, right?
Yeah, thank you guys. Yeah, I could show you this. These cards are crazy.
She did all of them herself, like, their home's so different and funny.
Did you do
Canva.
Photoshop?
No,
InDesign,
so
InDesign.
I'm sending it off to print, so I have an InDesign file, but
Oh, yeah, that's right. yeah.
I created all these, 144 of them in Midjourney Bot, and so
Wow, that's amazing.
I gotta show you these.
Did you use a seed phrase to keep things?
I used a consistent phrase. You'll see these cards are pretty cool.
I noticed that in one of the slides where all the funny emotion characters were, that they
Yeah.
all had this similar vibe.
Oh, I love the ambivalence one. And this guy looks, of course, like a minion, pensive, all distracted. That looks like me on a. Let me take a photo of the distracted one
Yeah.
and send it to Fernando.
Yeah.
Oh,
And this
I
is
didn't
good
see that
because
one.
I also asked ChatGPT, I was like, can you write me some questions that a person would need to answer to identify if they're feeling distracted? And then I could just put them in there. Man, it really shortcutted my process so much.
Yeah.
I rewrote all the definitions so that they're not like dictionary. Yes,
Did you have? Oh, I'm sorry. What? I didn't.
I had a question. So not related to the slides, but specifically related to your company. So you mentioned the customer journey.
Mhm.
There's different touch points you can have. Is that specifically focused on retail businesses, or do you have ideas of mind where that sort of the model can be applied to different business models?
good question. We haven't done a pilot yet in customer journey, so I'm looking for that right now. We have a hypothesis on how it would apply and how it would roll out. We have all the technology in place to do so. We even have an API. So if you have existing software and you want to pipe stuff in, you can do that too. Our technical co-founder has built and deployed enterprise software, so he's amazing. I'm also married to him, which is great. It's in the house. It's nice. Yeah. But no, we haven't done a pilot yet for direct to consumers. We've only done market research and we've done employee space. So actively looking for that opportunity at the moment.
So is let's assume you guys have customers that you got, not customers, like a business that you guys have information through your model, like through these models. Would it be studying specifically how the customers are behaving during different steps of the customer journey? For example, let's say, so I'm in real estate sales specifically.
Oh, yeah.
So imagine a transaction from buying to a specific transaction with buyers, for example. You have somebody who comes in, purchases auto, for example, and then from there goes to lender, then from lender goes to a seller, and then seller to title, and then title inspection. So different touch points.
Been through that myself, yeah.
So exactly. So
Mhm.
if you imagine that case, how would I'm just trying to imagine if there's a way that this can fit into like a
Yeah.
enterprise model. How would you like sort of make a scenario?
Yeah.
What sort of like, how
So
would
the
you-
use case I would apply in the retail or in the real estate space, as having been a home buyer on multiple and seller on multiple occasions, would be how. So it's an incredibly emotional experience. Buying and selling homes is incredibly emotional. So I know I was actually speaking with a real estate professional just this past weekend about emotions and how she's constantly trying to manage emotions, especially right now when people have like a fixed mindset of where their value should be. And she's like, and you're just chasing the market down. Like, I'm like, oh, that's a really intense way to say it. So there's pretty standardized touch points and process in that journey. So it's, looking if it's a buyer's journey versus if it's a seller's journey. If I were to deploy something like this, in that I would probably identify those touch points, and then I would pre-program check-ins at triggered events. So if once the title company has maybe requested all the documentation, send out a trigger. Once an offer has been made, send out a trigger. And then you can look and see what are the trends, because I think when you're looking at data, it's you never want to look at a focus group of one, right? You really want to look at this as trends. So if you're looking at this and you say over the past year, well, a lot of our customers are falling off at the title phase. Is it just the natural sort of like difficulty of the title phase, and you're really having to gather all that information, or is it the title company? So you could maybe adjust the questions to say, hey, how did you feel about the title company that was helping you? Or how did you feel about the process? Oh, I got frustrated in the title process. It's annoying. It's the worst part. So I think it would help you identify, is it your areas that are the issues? Is it the nature of the beast, or is it certain vendor partners that could do better, or could you do better? So how can you, for me, it's the ultimate goal is, what emotional experience do you want the brand to have? What do you want to create for people, and how do you cultivate that along the way? Does that answer your question?
That is, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a follow-up question.
Yeah.
The follow-up question was, so going off of what you just said, assuming a case where, let's assume that the model that you have created gets to a specific, the scale we have from -100 to like the +100, imagine it's on like the +52 or whatever. If it's in that range, can your model automatically predict how to sort of start marketing to the customer for the next triggers that are in place with the customer journey?
Once there's enough data in place, you could certainly train machine learning to analyze that data and start making predictions. We haven't had a use case yet that's aggregated enough data to do so, but I'd very much like to do that. And in fact, I think that the application with this, and especially being first-party human data that AI really struggles with, how could you put it in there, and what could happen? kind of interesting. Yes.
That actually, that's an interesting question. In fact, that's something that I'm busy with right now. So first, the question that I had, the best way to deliver this, would that be SMS in your opinion?
So in a customer journey, what we're working on right now is a chatbot on a website, like a little overlay. So you could say, like, how do you feel about the price points on this page?
But then they actually have to go to it. So
Yeah, if that's part of the journey. So you could gather it at the point of purchase.
okay.
You could gather it on a website transaction. If you don't have a cell phone number, for example, you could gather it by email. You could gather it on Slack. You could gather it, like the modality on how we gather that,
Anyway.
is any way.
Yeah.
So if somebody's already gathering and has a gathering kind of engine in place, that'll be a great one to a use case to plug the API in and process it and then spit it back out.
So, I'm using Go High Level. Are you familiar with it? Okay, so it's like the new ClickFunnels.
Okay,
So
I know those.
ClickFunnels is a good product, but it's incredibly clunky and not fun to use.
Agreed.
And then
What's
so
it called?
ClickFunnels or
Go High Level.
Go High Level.
It's basically the ClickFunnel killer. It's way better. It does
Yeah.
absolutely
I was
everything.
like hearing news.
I know.
information.
It does everything. Like there's about nothing that you can't do with it.
Go High Level, huh?
And part of that is you can send out emails, texts, whatever, and then based on the response, you can have the trajectory go a different way. So with AI and chatbots,
Mm-hmm.
you can then have the outcome of the conversation be altered by the response of the person.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's interesting.
And that's something that I'm like really working on right now to get that all dialed in.
That I think the data that you get is if mood is X, then do that. If NEI score is in this
Right.
range, then do that.
Yeah.
So you could take sentiment into account for a next customer action or
That's-
behavior.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
It's great. Because before I was just basing it on like yes or no answers.
Yeah, and
But with this, that adds a whole other level.
it's also it removes the translation. A lot of the problems with sentiment is that you don't think your sentiment, you feel your sentiment. So if you ask somebody how they are on a scale of 1 to 10, you're asking them to think their sentiment. But if you ask for the reaction, like which one of these do you feel like, it does bypass the prefrontal cortex right into the limbic brain where you are making those emotional reactions, and so you're getting better data. It's not going through this like filter with all the biases and all of the, oh, I don't really know what that emoji means, or I don't really know what this number is, or how does that relate to that, like all this thinking. We just want to get rid of all that thinking. Go to the reactions.
I wonder if there's any way to sort of merge that with heat maps,
Mm-hmm.
so that basically heat maps detect where people's attention is on an interface, and if you could trigger certain conclusions from that.
I think heat maps, and I think of eye gaze,
Yeah.
the density or length of time.
Mhm.
I don't know that this type of data could overlay that exactly. It's an interesting thought, though. I think this data could be displayed as heat maps, but whether it's on a physical layout or like a space, that would take a little bit of work to figure that out.
Yeah. I'm also thinking of like webcam, like where.
Another way we use this is events. So, and I should have done that in this one, I just completely forgot. But my CMO does a lot of more speaking than I do. She's really the speaker of the bunch. She puts up a cell phone number and says, opt in. So you just text hi to the number, and then that you're signed up, like you're in our system. And then it'll automatically, it's pre-scheduled to say, hey, how did you like this talk? Respond with an emoji that represents how you feel. She gets the emoji back, and she shares the results and the deck and whatever by text message. So it's a fantastic tool for speakers.
That is.
Yeah. We're also talking to YouTubers. Can we build a panel of your aficionados, your brand advocates, pre-test your content with them? Now you're going to be a lot more confident in not getting backlash if you put something out there you shouldn't. So a pre-testing with YouTubers is a big revenue area there as well. This has been probably the biggest challenge with this journey that I've been on, is the incredible diversity of use cases not knowing really where to focus, and just sort of trying things out, seeing how they stick, and like navigating our way through this maze of uncertainty. It's fun. Every day. Uncertainty. But that's life, right? Pain, uncertainty every day.
Yep.
Yep. Doubt, pain, uncertainty every day. Here we are.
Did you say you work with chatbots too? Or-
Yes, this definitely applies with chatbots. I mean, we are essentially a chatbot.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is it,
A programmable chatbot.
what kind of bot, is it bot press or is it, what kind of?
We have our own custom software that's built on top of Twilio for delivery.
Okay.
But we have an interface, and you can program frequencies and times of days and different questions, and we're doing collections like measure belonging. Here's your question set to measure belonging. Here's your question set to measure trust. Here's your question set to measure pride or purpose, connecting with company purpose or different things. So we're really curating those. One of my co-founders is really big into the employee experience side. I have another co-founder who's 25 years of qualitative market research, and she's an anthropologist. She's more does on our market research side, and then I really focus more on the individual side and like how to, be a happy person side. This is fun. Thank you guys.
This was great. It's 8:15.
Yeah, we keep talking, man.
So, I mean, does anybody have any questions? You can talk to Tina. She brought her business cards,
Mhm.
right here on the front.
Yep.
And, we don't have to lock the door until 8:30, so
Yeah.
we have 17, let's say 10 minutes, okay? Because I want to make sure that everything's straightened out. But feel free to ask more questions.
Hi, Josh.
Well, when is Ted Cruz coming here? Did you see that one? So you know him? He was your client?
Yeah, I know.
That's
No,
super
yeah.
cool.
If he walked in right now, I'd give him a big hug.
What?
If he walked in right now, I'd give him a big hug.
Nice. Yeah, my friend worked here. My neighbor worked here.
Yeah.
So she knows.
I was part of, I don't know if you ever heard of Bootstrap Austin.
Yeah.
The Joy Goswami. I was like literally at the very first meetup of Bootstrap
Really?
How
Austin
many
in
years ago
2000,
was that?
20 years ago.
Yeah.
2009.
Three,
Really? Was that-
2003.
Have you been in Austin that long?
I've been here since 2006.
I got here in 2000, like January 2017.
92 for me.
Yeah.
I remember meeting with Deloitte in 2009.
But Joy married my husband and I.
So you've been here forever too. Anybody who's been we're here almost 17 years. That's a long time.
Yeah, this is my
Yeah,
last
so-
year though.
So where did you come from? I came from California.
Yeah, but I came from Europe originally.
Well, I hear, believe it or not, we never lose our accents. People know where I come from in the U.S. That's why I sense it here and there.
Well, where do you come from? I don't.
Well, Chicago. And I
okay,
still,
yeah.
I could be gone from Chicago for forever.
I can hear that.
The A comes out every so often. The Chicago jacket.
Jacket.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad's from Wisconsin.
What?
My dad's from Wisconsin.
Yeah, well, they're slightly different.
Mhm, they are.
Where are you from? Like Germany or something?
Belgium.
Belgium.
Yeah.
Mm.
See, I would not know that accent. So do you speak
It's not,
Flemish?
yeah.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
It's what are the
I know a lot of
languages?
other Flemish people that don't speak like me.
So what are the languages in Belgium? Flemish
French
and
and German.
German
And a
and,
little bit of German, like tiny
and
little.
what's the other one?
Flemish, French.
Oh, French. I knew it was French, yeah. Cool. It's been on my list of countries. I was supposed to move to Europe in 2019, but can't.
Your face looks like
Oh,
a
yeah.
And then I said, I'm not moving to Europe.
It's pretty cool to see your name on a science journal that's published online. It just got live this month. This Journal of Computers and Human Behavior.
Wow, yeah, that would be cool.
That was really cool.
Super
Me
cool.
and Dr. Linda Kay.
You know what I'm interested in knowing is you said you never got funded.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a challenge?
I think that I don't have the pipeline revenue that they want to see.
I was texting my person.
how do you try to get funded?
Traditional broad pitch, all these, yeah, they're usually like, yeah, you're just too early.
I think the
Everyone says
got
founder.
every Tuesday, so this is 3 years ago. It's first
So you still consider
It's
startup?
the first.
I mean, I did, we went a mass challenge, we did a mass challenge 1 year, but interestingly,
Might know somebody.
mass challenge, my husband pitched, got us into mass challenge, and then I pitched for the competition because he was undergoing cancer treatments. But you should see the difference in our judging. Same pitch, same company. This was pretty consistent, pretty good. Mine was all over the place. It'd be like IP, I'd get like a 3 and a 10. And I'm like, I have a patent pending. Like, that has to be somewhat objective. But it's just, it's the this, I think, that's how I present, and it's just, people are like, I don't believe you.
Is he more analytical?
Well, he's the CTO, so, you know, he's a dude with a beard, right? So it's helpful, big boys, big muscles, and very believable.
You seem like a creative, so.
Yeah, I am.
That might,
It's not my area.
creatives scare masters.
I think so. Yeah, this is way out there. A lot of investors can't get their head around what we're doing. Can't get their head around, well, you don't have a product market fit. You know, what are you trying to solve? You know, just complete and utter.
That'd be different now though. AI being so hype right now.
I actually have an acquisition already. I might exit already. Of somebody who sees it and it's gone, oh, that's really cool. Maybe we'll buy that.
No, I think it's cool, and you know, I try to wrap my head around stuff like that a lot.
Yeah, it's a mystery, and it's just a puzzle that's hard to solve. So it's just my designerly attempts at solving this puzzle.
Yeah, right now I'm building a new website, and I'm very concerned about colors and images.
Yeah.
You know, so because of the emotions that they evoke.
Yeah.
You know, so like you could have all the right wording, but then you have the wrong colors, and
It's so true.
scare people.
So true.
You know?
And I have the talent to know what looks good, how to choose it, and the education and design history and typography, and I've been a creative director and a strategist and a designer, and but it's not. But the science behind it is what I'm really interested in. Is really how do you understand how the decisions that designers and talented people make intuitively? Why do they work? How do they work? And is that something that other people can learn to do, or is it replicable, or is it just sort of like a magical moment where you just happen to get the right thing at the right time and the right target audience, and there's a bit of magic to it? And I think there's a little bit of all of the above. Timing too. Cold? Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roland. Thanks for coming. Appreciate your
Connect with
engagement.
you
Yeah.
on LinkedIn, perhaps. Is that?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I'm there.
You have both
Find me.
of our LinkedIn's.
Yeah, I got both clients.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you. Relax. Yeah, I know. I feel like my energy level's a little low today. It's all right. More food? Maybe more food.
So what happens is
Sharon, thank you.
Wait, let me follow you out.
I just told you,
Oh, thank you.
But it's,
It's out there.
Let me just-
It's definitely out there.
let me straighten up the chairs very quickly.
I hadn't thought of it. I have to think about that, whether I will share it or not. It's a good question. I'm not sure.
What?
If I will share the presentation or not.
It's up to you. I
Yeah.
mean, you know what, you can share it with we can share it with the email list, I think, I don't know. If you want.
I don't know that there's anything, the only thing I'm sensitive to is just some of the data that was showing on India. So I just want to think,
I was texting.
before I do that. Yeah. Oh,